is clear as day. She said, go and heal the world.
Welcome to the Masters of Wellness podcast channel. Join us on a transformative journey as we explore the intersection of health, well-being, and global perspectives. Each episode delves into holistic approaches that combine Eastern wisdom with Western science, offering actionable insights to enhance your mind, body, and spirit. Hosted by wellness experts Edward and Chuck and inspiring international guests, we discuss topics ranging from mindfulness and nutrition to fitness, innovation, and business. Whether you're a wellness professional, enthusiast, or someone seeking to improve your lifestyle, you'll find valuable takeaways here. Subscribe now and be part of a thriving community dedicated to creating a healthier, more balanced world. Let's grow together, one conversation at a time. New episodes every week.
And welcome back again, everyone, to the Masters of Wellness podcast. Well, look who we've got here again today. Chuck and JC, the two plant medicine masters.
Yeah.
Our previous episode, Chuck went through about half of his journey for his first experience with plant medicine. He went through day 1 and day 2. And today he's going to unpack what happened on the third session and thereafter. But before we talk to Chuck, JC, I wanted to ask you some questions because you were the person that dropped Chuck off to go to his experience for his first time and then also pick him up later on as well. And just as we were having a chat before our episode today, you were talking about the importance of people deciding to do plant medicine. They should have a compelling reason to do it. It's not something like going to do mushrooms or smoke some weed or something like that for a bit of fun. It's something that has a purpose to it. And who are the people that you recommend should and also should not be considering plant medicine?
Yeah, well, I would say, at least for me, the precipice that brought me to this was losing my dad. And that really helped me with that. And I've heard a lot of people that have lost someone and they just cannot get over that grief. It will do the therapy in a weekend. And I think people that suffer with depression and anxiety, it's a big help for that. And part of that too, even for me, was that I had spent my whole adult life taking antidepressants like Zoloft, and I just wanted to break free from that. And it did that for me for a while. And truth be told, I'm back taking those medications again. But it kind of opened me up in a way to say I was ashamed of it before. I was ashamed I'm broke and I have to take these medications. But now my goal in life is very simple, is to be happy. Okay. And if those medications are making me happy, then there's nothing wrong with that, But the people that shouldn't take this are people that have been diagnosed with some serious mental disorders like bipolar, schizophrenia. They definitely the schizophrenia thing. Imagine if somebody's having multiple personality disorders, you don't want to go and see other personalities in this medic.
Mm-hmm.
And then definitely no one that just basically, if your life is good and everything is fine, like keep it that way. You don't need to open this door. Yeah. This is a door to be open to get you out of something, not deeper into. You don't want to go into something that you don't already have.
Let me add something to that real quick, because that was my perception as well. And it's an accurate one. So please take his words and let them sink in for sure. But even if you're in a place that is good, but you've been urging or eagerly trying to elevate yourself, this will help with that too. You could have no problems in your life, but you're trying to evolve in the world. You've been investigating the world of trying to be enlightened. This is a powerful tool for that too. This isn't going to mess you up because you don't want to allow it to mess you up. That was my fear before. I even told Joel like 2 years ago when he was first talking about it. I said, no, the chemicals of my brain and the chemicals of my brain are functioning quite well. I don't need this, but I've even going through everything I've been going through, I have been trying to work on myself, and this has catapulted that. All the courses I've taken and the stuff I've read, it's been very good, and I will continue to read those and have that information coming into my brain, into my universe. But there's nothing more powerful than this medicine to give you a deeper knowing and to elevate yourself too. So I think it can be both sides.
Okay, and just from a responsibility sense, like the place that both of you guys went to visit to do your experiences, do they have a screening process, prior to people joining, or is it just take your money, show up, and we'll take you?
No, as a matter of fact, first thing I'll say is that Sacred Vine and most of the places are actual organized churches registered with the federal government. And they screen you for all the medications. I mean, there's a list of probably 200 medications that if you're taking them, you have to stop. You cannot do this. I mean, they're not going to drug test you, but they make it very clear to you that you cannot be taking these medications. And even for me, I had to stop everything that I was taking before 2 weeks out. You need to get everything out of your system. Any of those SSRIs that block certain chemicals in your brain, if you have issues with depression or anxiety, that interferes with the medicine because it won't allow what you're trying to have happen, which is some sort of chemical reaction in your brain that the ayahuasca creates. It doesn't allow that to happen if you're still taking those medications. So for anybody who thinks, oh, I'm just gonna lie and say that I quit the medications, don't waste your money because it's not gonna work, and it might have some negative side effect. I mean, I've studied a ton. I don't know of anybody dying from this. I mean, it's kind of like you could take as much ayahuasca as you want. You could drink the liter of it, but you're just gonna have a really horrible time. But you're gonna be throwing up for a whole day.
Yeah. And when I got there, we all had to go and see the medic before we started and get our blood pressure, get our pulse, and they had to make sure that everything looked, at least on the surface pretty good before you even got started. So I failed to mention that in the last episode. So thanks for bringing that back up.
Okay, great. So Sacred Vine, look down in the descriptions. You'll see the link to their website where you can get information. While you're down there, Chuck, what would we like people to do? One thing that you shared with me through your experience is you were afraid to ask for help before. So let's ask for some help. What do we need people to do for us?
We're looking to get 10,000 subscribers. So please click subscribe, click the notifications so that all the amazing episodes that we're going to have after this amazing episode, you get notified about. So subscribe and make sure you go and watch all of our videos. We could really use your help, and share this. That's the biggest help that we could get, is you share this even with folks that you don't know are ready to have it.
And ask us questions because we want to help.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the purposes behind launching the Masters of Wellness podcast is to open our minds and to help other people open their minds in the process. So we are absolutely non-judgmental about anything that anyone wants to talk about or engage with us on communication. Some people love what we're talking about. Some people say, oh, that doesn't really align with my values and things like that. Hey, that is okay. We are just here to share some information and have some meaningful conversations about it. So thanks for that. And now, our last episode, Chuck spoke about his first evening going to the retreat. That's where you experience ceremony 1. And then the next morning, Saturday morning, ceremony 2. Now, within those ceremonies, you also have some mini ceremonies, because on the first evening, I remember you saying you actually had 3 times of drinking the medicine, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then on the second ceremony, the Saturday morning, I believe you said you had 2. So you're already up to 5 cups or 5 scoops or whatever of the medicine. So one thing I really appreciated was that they ask people, would you like more during that ceremony, or do you feel like you've had enough? So people can kind of gauge where they're at, and do they want to top up a little, or are they kind of satisfied with where they are right now? I think that is really, really good, because as both of you guys actually mentioned, people experience the feeling from the plant medicine at different times and at different intensity levels. So I guess that's why they start with your first drink, your first cup, see how you go, ease yourself into it, and then see where you go from there. And some people, maybe they stop at 1, or some people want to experience more. And one of the advices that JC gave to Chuck was, if they're offering, go ahead and drink it, and don't be a...
Yeah, the thing that I was told is that if you can hear them call for the medicine, then get up and go get it. Because if you're really, truly in the journey, nothing exists. You don't even exist at that point. Mm-hmm. So you won't hear anything. Just like Chuck was talking about, the people that were purging around him were distracting him. I'm thinking that he's going to say in the third ceremony, those people didn't exist anymore. I have a feeling that's where we're going.
Fantastic. Yeah. Okay, so that segues us perfectly into what we're talking about today. Chuck, walk us through the experience of your third ceremony and thereafter.
So we had an integration between the second ceremony and the third. So this was the second ceremony I would have done on Saturday. This is the night ceremony of Saturday, and the integration was just as powerful as the second daytime ceremony. But we were told that they were going to do hape around 5 o'clock, and we had a few hours after we did hape in the ceremonial grounds where everyone was on their mats after the hape to just really meditate, relax. But before that, I got a chance to meet a lovely couple, and I'd love to give them a shout out, and we'll include their links to their YouTube page because I met Chris and Peaches, who they are the cutest couple. When you first meet them, you could just see how much they love each other. And I didn't have too much opportunity to meet them, but I was advised to maybe sit someplace else then, because the first two ceremonies I sat in the same spot, sit in a different spot to really get a different experience. And luckily for me, I got a chance to sit next to Chris and Peaches, and come to find out they are also in the podcasting business. They have a podcast called To Be Better. So check them out. They have a huge following, and they are also in the business of helping others as well. And I've had a chance to look at their stuff since, and it's really, really powerful. So Chris and Peaches, thank you for sharing your thoughts and your wisdom, and talking with me for a little bit. And shout out to you guys. So after I was done yapping with them, probably annoying them with all of my questions, I had a chance to do some journaling while I was meditating too. I look at this as I was setting the stage, because you'll notice a lot of what I'm going to say here really came to fruition throughout the third ceremony here, which is really where I went deep. So here are my notes from before. I wrote, I am all that I need. I am everything. I am anything and everything that serves the world. There is more to me than I ever could imagine. Trust myself. Only I can create the life of my dreams. Release all judgments and expectations of everything. Do what makes me feel good, what makes me feel my authentic self. I am more than enough. The people who need me will find me. Put my authentic self out there. Everything is connected and alive, and everyone is connected and one. So that segues over to this beautiful third ceremony. On this ceremony, Syl talks about how, again, this is an even stronger dose of ayahuasca, and that we would not need to probably go up for 3 different doses. So be mindful of that. And I told her, I think the words that I was advised to give from some others is to tell her that I am ready for the Jedi, I believe it was. So I had to give her the secret code. So when she was sort of talking with us beforehand, I said, I'm ready to go Jedi mode. And she knew exactly what that was. So I opted to do 2 scoops in this first dose. And it didn't take long for me to feel the medicine. I started to see those most vivid colors again. And one of the first things I saw was an image of Jesus. And I immediately knew that I was being shown this image so that I would recognize what I was seeing, not because this is how he looked. And it gave me a sense right then and there of peace, and knowing that I was protected and aligned with my purpose. Not long after, time isn't really a thing when it comes to ayahuasca, but I felt like quickly after that, I dissolved straight into the earth. And Joel's talked about how that happened to him as well. And it was, I had to let go of my body in this world and surrender to her. My body, though, my body and my consciousness was fighting it. I was fighting the surrender. It felt like my brain was crackling and popping like Rice Krispie treats, and that my brain was just dissolving. And I'll share some science that I discovered afterwards that explain what's happening in the brain that might explain that feeling, because there are chemical things that are occurring in your brain, without using cool science words here, that are allowing the right brain and the left brain to really connect here and to see and feel a higher consciousness. But later, the medicine and I continued to keep battling. And it didn't seem like it was a long time, but in real time, it was probably hours until I fully surrendered. I kept fighting her. It was the scariest thing I've ever felt, is having to give my body away and say, all right, I no longer am in control, you are. I wanted so badly to be back in my body, conscious and aware. I started to laugh, realizing that just that morning and the night before that I was so frustrated that I was too aware and like things were distracting me. So, and it's funny because then at that moment I was scared because I was no longer aware and things were no longer bothering me. I was in the earth and now she had me. And it felt as if I wasn't getting back anytime soon. So it wasn't a moment where I can say it was beautiful. At that time, I was scared out of my mind. The visuals were 10 times more vivid than they were the two previous ceremonies. Everything was still moving at a rapid pace, but not as rapid. And it was just really very extremely colorful. It was a combination of swirls, melting images, and geometric shapes resembling a snake. So later I'll show some visuals that would maybe somewhat put some context to these things that I saw, but nothing's going to compare to what I really saw. And I probably won't ever really get to see what that was again. I was more terrified of that full surrender than I was of what I was seeing, though. It wasn't the images that scared me, it was the aspect of surrender. I wouldn't know until the next day what I even showed me. And as I was working with my integration and trying to figure out what just happened. But in that moment, I had a huge soul feeling that I needed to cry. And it started small, almost like I was laughing. And, they gave us a pillow and a blanket, and I was just laying down, melting into the earth, and kind of asking myself, are you crying? And then the crying just got more profound, and I started hysterically crying. And I'm like, parts of me were like, this is why that guy the day before was hysterically crying. I get it. But I couldn't stop. I was wondering during my crying sessions, why has everything happened to me like this? Why am I struggling? I was crying away all the pain, the sorrow, the fear, the anxiety that I'd ever had in my entire life, but especially the past 6 years. So not in a voice that I could hear, like Joel mentioned, he heard a woman's voice, but deep in my soul, Aya told me this, that everything has happened to get me to where I am now, not to worry, that I am safe, right? Remember Blanco was telling me in the last episode that one of the other fellow journeyer told me that she was given that message to tell me that. She told me I am stronger and wiser because of my hardships. Go through the hard times to get to the good. I cried even more, wondering why I had let myself struggle for so long. And she said, you don't need to struggle. All of life is always beautiful. Let go, surrender. So I continued to cry, and I began fighting the urge to purge at this point, which I had been purging a lot in the form of tears and the biggest, longest yawns I've ever done in my life, as I'm releasing everything inside my body that harmed me just through yawns. It felt relieving, but it almost felt like, Joel has described this before. I had the urge that I was going to throw up, that I was going to purge. But it started coming out in the form of these huge yawns. And like I was throwing stuff up, and it was the pain that would just needed to just leave my body and no longer serve me. So I fought through this urge to throw up for quite a long time. And then it dawned on me that I need to be brave and ask for help. So I asked for Hape. I was actually encouraged the day before during the integration that if I had needed any assistance in purging, to be brave, to get up, and to put my hand up and ask for help. And Hape isn't a fun thing, right? But it did the trick. And when I opened my eyes to receive Hape, everything was dancing, but there was no music yet. But everything was dancing. Everyone that I looked and saw was vibrating. So the beautiful Sylvania came over to me. And at that point, I wasn't like Joel thinking, oh, she's an angel. I was more like, why am I fighting? Why am I fighting? And I'm like still crying as I'm talking to her. And she whispered some things to me, but everything was I barely could hear her because everything was vibrating so much. My entire body after taking this Hape vibrated to the moon. And I kid you not, I felt the Holy Spirit enter my body. I was bawling my eyes out still, and I couldn't sit up for very long after that. So I had to lay back down. As I laid back down, I sank back into the ground again. And she continued to blow my mind with the trippy world of visuals. Still scared, still had to release myself. But just when I thought as if I didn't have that need to purge anymore, it hit me hard. And next thing you know, I'm throwing up harder than I've ever thrown up in my life. I'm purging, and it's doing its work. As when I purged, at least, I couldn't keep my eyes shut. So I opened my eyes, and as I'm watching this disgustingness come out of my body into this bucket, and not all of it was anything coming out, but what was coming out was sparkling. The ground underneath the bucket was vibrating and shaking. I will never forget that image of what everything looked like with my eyes open at that moment. But it was at that point, while I was letting go of everything, that I had this deep sense of knowing that I was healed physically, mentally, and spiritually. I purged away all of my doubts, fears, and stresses, and all of my concerns, and all of my old self. I was the new, connected, authentic, joyful me. Life, everything, and everyone is beautiful. And I had a deep knowing that I am on the right path. Then she spoke to me. This was a little bit louder sense. Again, not a female voice, but she spoke to me and it was clear as day. That's right when I'm telling myself all I had to do is open my eyes and it won't be scary anymore. And in between opening my eyes and not being able to open my eyes, and it is clear as day, she said, go and heal the world. And although I received this amazing message, I still felt like I wanted to be back in my body, in control of my body. I was scared to go any deeper. I told her that I love myself. I said, I love my conscious mind. Can I have it back now? And it took some time, but I kept realizing and knowing, all right, I just need to be awake. I need to be awake. When I'm sleeping, I'm shrinking into the ground, right? But eventually I got released from the angst, the turmoil she provided to my mind, body, and soul so that I can discover myself, that I am more than enough. I am my own medicine was a big takeaway again, but even more profound, and that I'm perfect just the way I am. And when I opened my eyes, everything and everyone was still vibrating, but it at a level that was even more intense. I looked into the stars and there were millions of stars, more than there were ever before, the night before, anytime I've ever looked at the sky. The trees, because again, the setting was amazing. You're in this sort of open field, but in this circular open field with beautiful trees all around you, like you feel like you're in the Amazon. But the music was starting at this point and the trees were enjoying it. The single living thing was enjoying this ceremony. And before I could muster up enough energy to stand up, while I was laying down on my side, I saw this lady dancing in the fire. And she was so carefree, tapping into the energy of everything and everyone around her. And just watching her dance and glow in the fire was so beautiful. So I don't know how long I watched her, but I was so grateful. I think at one point she walked away and I finally mustered up some of my first words while I was in it. And I said, come back, please. Because it was so fun to watch how carefree she was. I couldn't clearly videotape her at the time. That would have probably been inappropriate. But we'll show a video that I found that's close to this image for you to help you visualize it. Syl was actually walking around. And at that moment, I'm like, oh, that's what Joel was talking about. She does look like an angel. And I just kind of looked at her like in this awe, like she is an angel because she's in this white, beautiful dress and she's dancing around and running around and getting people excited. And I literally went up to her when I could stand up and get up and go over to her. And I said, I see it now. You are an angel. And I was expecting her to be like, that's what Joel said.
He's like, I get that every day.
Yeah. I was able to get up and stand up because I decided I wanted to live in the land of the awakened, and everything and everyone. Again, I keep repeating myself here, but they were just so beautiful. So much love was surrounding us while a deep sense of unity was like pouring over out in the sky with every gust of the wind going by. This deep sense of unity wasn't just for the folks that were in the ceremony. It felt like unity for the world. So that encompasses my deep third ceremony, and I'm going to get into some really cool stuff that I had discovered since. But before I do that, a really good segue for where I'm going next would be for Alex to talk about his perspective on picking me up and driving me home. Like, was I different? Could you tell? And what was that experience like for you?
I mean, I guess the funny thing is that like I already saw this version of you before, right? Like the reality here is that you don't see that version of you until you go through this hell of the mind. But yeah, I mean, you definitely seem lighter, right? You were just, I could feel the peace. But I think having already gone through it, I already had an expectation, right? Already knew it was going to happen for you, right? Because I knew that happened for me, and we had been connected on so tightly the way that we've been talking about everything, and the way that this journey just lined up for you, and the way that everything is just lined up and how we're connected now. I already knew that it was going to happen, but I could definitely. The funny thing is that I see all your posts on Instagram and everything. I'm like, this guy is like a guru now. He's just wearing his sunglasses, driving down the street, talking about enlightenment and awakening. And I'm like, he gets it. You just feel this connection with everything. I mean, you and I both have very similar experiences as your third journey. I just happened to get it the first night because I was crazy enough to be like, give me as much ayahuasca as you could possibly give me. I actually said to the Chris that owned Soul Quest, he was kind of holding that third dose back from me. And I said, I'm ready to have a breakthrough right now. And he's like, okay, dude, just could ruin your whole weekend. And it didn't. It actually saved my life, So, but I see the change. I feel the change. I see it in your face just looking at you here. You're and the purging is the craziest part, right? Everybody is so confused by that. Everybody says, I would never do that because I don't want to puke, right? Everybody says the same thing, but it's not puking. That's why they call it purging, because and it's energy. It's this negative energy. And I've researched this so much. Everybody says the same thing. It's like your whole life worth of shit that's built up in you. It feels like it's coming from someplace deeper than you.
Yep.
Right? Like it's coming up from the earth. I told you, I don't know, maybe I didn't say this last time. At one point in my purge, I felt like I was purging all of the pain of all of humanity ever. Just think about that. I felt like I was the representative for Earth, and I was purging out all the pain and sorrow of everybody. And I mean, my journey went so deep that when I came back, I wanted to end humanity. I wanted to end the Earth because I just didn't want us to go through this pain anymore. That's how I was so blown away. I just want to end it all. And at that point, I thought it was so powerful. I thought I had the ability to do that, which is insane, right?
Yeah.
My ego was still there. I just went through ego death, and my ego still popped back up and said, you could end the Earth right now if you wanted to.
Well, thank you that you didn't do that.
I'm glad that I didn't. But at the time, it seemed like the right move at the time.
JC, I recall when we did your 2 episodes, very interesting. You went to a retreat 2 times. The first time you had 3 ceremonies, and then the second time you went to a retreat, you had 2 ceremonies. But when you finished your first visit to a retreat, you came out, you'd been enlightened, you had that experience. However, you still decided that months later or the following year, you were going to go back and do it again. That choice to go back and do it again, was it because you enjoyed the first time so much, you want to experience it again? Or was it that you felt as though the first time you did not quite achieve everything you wanted to achieve? You wanted to hit the home run, basically, and achieve everything you wanted?
Well, it definitely wasn't because I enjoyed it so much. So, I mean, the way I tell the stories, it's funny, but it was absolute hell. I went through hell for a weekend, and I thought I was there for eternity, an infinite amount of time. So it wasn't that I wanted to go back because this was cool. I started, the anxiety and depression started creeping back in. So I had stopped taking all the medications before I went, and then I didn't take them again for 6 months. So I was off of all that medication. I really thought, okay, I'm healed. Right? I'm cured of the need for this. And all that negative emotion started creeping back in. And that's the toughest part when you come back from this retreat. And I know Chuck's going through this right now, is that you're in this bubble, right? When you go with all this love bubble of all these people that are on the same journey as you. Mm-hmm. And then you come back into the real world and you see all the grossness that is out there. I mean, it's inevitable. And I just feel like it was piling up again. And I've heard people say this, and I agree with it. The medicine calls you back. I mean, it's so powerful. It's with you forever. This doesn't leave. Something is planted in you. I mean, to the point, I think I said this before, the first night I thought that ayahuasca said to me, I'm never going to leave you. And it was like I was possessed by some sort of a demon. And then the next day, during the daytime ceremony, I said, I'm never letting you leave me. And then by the third ceremony, we were best friends. It was wild. But I felt the need to go back. I knew something wasn't right. You know, my wife was not for it because I was not level-headed when I came back, right? Like I'm kind of far out there when I get hooked on something. Like I'm an addict, right? So I get addicted to the feeling of feeling good, right? My wife was completely against it. She hated the fact that I was going to go back and do this again. And, of course, she's saying to me, I thought you were healed. You told me you were never going to do this again. And I said, I never wanted to do this. I trust me. You don't understand, but I don't want to go through this. This is a need, not a want. And then, I told you that the medicine during my second journey last year, during the second ceremony, when I'm still trying to wrap my head around that, because whatever I saw, I can't put words to it. I mean, because I went so deep that I was in a place that it's not this, whatever that means. It was a realm. It felt like heaven. I still close my eyes and meditate and try to wrap my head around what I saw. And it's funny because this, like I said, this stuff sticks with you forever. It's so profound that Chuck 2 years from now could tell this story verbatim. It's not going to go away. But so after recording that episode that we did our podcast, it's brought a lot of this stuff back up, and I've been trying to figure it out again. And the best thing that I can describe is what Buddhists describe as this nirvana. I felt this seething. It was weird. It felt beautiful, but it felt dark. I think it was trying to show me that there's like yin and the yang, night and day, darkness, love, evil, God, the devil, all at once. And I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. I don't know exactly what that was, but it sure did feel like heaven for eternity. And then it told me you're done. And then I just walked around the property while everybody else was back there on their journey. I was walking around with my hands behind my back. Like you imagine these like enlightened, like Confucius. I was walking around the property, walking super slow. And I just was saying to myself, these are the tools that I use to walk in the path of Jesus Christ, which meant nothing to me at the time. I wasn't a Christian, and I was walking around the property talking about Jesus. So I don't have it figured out, right? I guess that's probably a good takeaway from all of this, is that we went through this extremely deep experience, but I don't think at any point in this lifetime that we're going to have it figured out. Right? It's not meant for us to figure out here. We're seeking and searching to find the answer, but the answer to that question, I believe, is that we are not entitled to receive that answer. So we might as well try to be happy while we're here, because that's probably what what's the meaning of life? To be happy, right? Like, why do we have these emotions?
Yeah, Chuck, your intentions going into this experience, you put a lot of thought into this. I remember months and months before you going to do this journey, you contemplating it, researching it, discussing with JC. Like a lot of thought went into making this decision. I recall last time after our podcast finished, we had a quick chat with your lovely wife, and I asked her a question. How do you feel about Chuck going to do this? She said, I'm all for it. Very, very supportive. I really am happy that he's going to go on this journey, and she's also interested to try it herself as well. However, on our last episode, at the beginning of the episode, you mentioned 5 of your intentions. I'm just going to read them out now, and then I want to ask you, looking back at those intentions, where are you now, and have those questions been answered, or did they not matter at all? First question, where did my disease come from? So for those that don't know, Chuck has survived cancer 2 times and had 2 surgeries. Question number 1, where did my disease come from? Question number 2, where does my unhealthy relationship with money come from? Good question. How do I become the creator and deeply know and understand who I am? Number 4, what has caused my life to end up the way it is? And finally, how can I help the world? Looking back at those now from an outside perspective.
Did those get answered? Like anything that's profound indirectly is probably the best way of answering that. So as I started off the last episode with my intentions and then read a few lines of some things that have come across my way that really touched me and explained my why, where you're aligning your emotions and your thoughts and actions, but you have to have that really deep belief in yourself in order for all those emotions, thoughts, and actions to be aligned. That's what I got out of this. So I got an answer to all of those things, but not like the typical human answer that we would want. Like give me the exact answer, right? No, it's more I have to work on those things. And now I believe that I am exactly who I need to be. And the emotions I'm going to have now, the thoughts I'm going to have now, and then the actions that I'm going to take because of those emotions and thoughts are all going to be aligned and are going to help me to help more people. They're going to help me to better my relationship with money. They're going to help me understand, why, not necessarily why I got sick, because that's probably one where I can say it doesn't matter, right? If anything, I'm thankful that it has happened because it has helped me evolve as a human being and it has helped me be interested in this space. I can almost guarantee you that if I did not have those experiences, both financially, emotionally, and health wise, I never would have ventured, never say never, but I don't think I would have ever learned or participated in an ayahuasca ceremony. And it's not that, hey, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me and that, all the other things I've gone through are so worth it because I did this thing. No, I mean, ultimately, ayahuasca has helped me understand a deeper knowing. And I was going to go back to, Joel's reason for doing it again. My reason for wanting to do it again, because I certainly left ceremony number 3 thinking, no, thank you. I don't want to do this ever again. The very next day and every single day since, I've realized that the training wheels are off, right? I could have gone deeper, and who knows where that could have gone. And I really would like to do it again so that because now I know I can ask for more. Now I know what to do to go deeper. How much more can I evolve as a human, as a man, as a husband, or as a father? I'm excited about going through this work without the medicine because it's still in me, but without going to a ceremony next weekend and then working through that and being even more enlightened and then going through it again and then just evolving even more. So I certainly see myself doing this again, maybe even more than once. And I now understand why someone would do it 7 times, 20 times. So I hope and believe that I won't be doing it because I'm feeling like I'm still broken. I didn't feel broken before. I just had so many questions, right? And those questions are still there, less about myself and more about just everything, right?
Thanks, Chuck. That helps to answer because one of the light bulb moments I had was when we looked at your first 5 intentions, the questions that you were going to ask. They were very, very clear around money, around health, around life situation, and so on. But when you later started to talk about the journey, that's why I'm really impressed that the way that you've mapped out your story today has been very objective. You were very clear about this is what you're thinking before you went in, because it would have been so easy to change your intentions after the experience to make them match up with what the journey was about, right? But you didn't. You were very honest about what you were searching for at the beginning. And as it turns out, those questions were not as important as what you believe they were.
Mm-hmm.
What you got out of this seems to be so much deeper, so much higher, and so much more meaningful than the surface level questions that you were asking at the beginning. Is that true?
100%. Yeah. So when you are in a meeting with your team afterwards and they're coaching you on, what to expect and how things will feel in the real world for a little while. It was advised, especially if you're going to be going in an airport around a bunch of people, that you might be catching or picking up on a lot of energies, and none of these energies you're really going to want in your life. So to be careful, to be mindful. Luckily for me, I had a whole day left with Joel and his family, and they took me to go paint some clay. So we did some creative artwork, and if I could give anyone recommendations what to do as soon as they leave an ayahuasca ceremony, I would say it's that. Do something creative. Definitely don't go right into an airport, because my experience in the airport was actually pretty good. I caught myself smiling at complete strangers and just seeing auras around everybody that were just like, I was just seeing the good in everybody. I didn't see anything bad. I was in a really cool place. They call that the pink cloud. I'm still kind of in the pink cloud. Everything's really still beautiful. Everyone's beautiful. I love everybody. And I hope that continues, and I'm sure it will. I'm trying, I was with Joel later in the Sunday night when he picked me up, and we were chatting about things, and he was having a good laugh because we turned on the show Inner and Outer World, and I believe it's on Amazon. I had watched it before, and he put it on again, and maybe the first 10 minutes I couldn't stop pausing it and writing notes because it was like, here's what you saw, Chuck. And if I can combine the Big Bang, the swirl of the Big Bang, if I can combine that with fractals, that would explain the geometric snake. It very much looked just like that. So the fractals from the Fibonacci sequence, they showed in the Inner and Outer World, and I was like, "That's what I saw! Oh my gosh!" And one of the things that I did some research on while I was in the airport to discover, like, what is that, right? They call that the thumbprint of God. It's like, wow, okay.
Do you feel like the medicine is trying to show us how the universe was created? Because I sure
Yes.
feel that way.
Yeah.
It was just it's trying to teach you. Like when you really, really go deep and you don't exist anymore and you're just part of this chemical universe or whatever it is. I got the feeling over and over again that it was trying to show me. It was just trying to show me something that human beings are not even capable of wrapping their head around. Are these like trying to show my little monkey brain, like you're not that important. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, stop taking yourself so seriously. Look around you. Just look at the sky. There's trillions of universes. Why are you so worried about your bugle boy genes? Right?
Yeah. And I'm a very practical person too. So I kept researching what is a fractal and all these other things that kept popping up that I discovered with this Inner and Outer World documentary. And I found this amazing article. I think I shared it with Joel. I'm going to include that in the comments below. That from a practical mindset standpoint, I thought was a beautiful explanation of the power of hallucinogenics like ayahuasca. And there's a scientific study, and it's a very long read, but you'll probably fly through it and be able to grab some really good nuggets. If you're thinking about doing ayahuasca, I'll highlight a few things on it right now. If you've ever done it, this is an awesome explanation of what happened scientifically in your brain that made you have these experiences. So I'm just going to read a few things. Bear with me. I do not have a science background. I find this stuff fascinating. So I'm going to butcher a few words for sure. So it says, just like ayahuasca, increase the fractal dimensions of the cortical brain activity in spatial and temporal domains. So cortical brain activity refers to the electrical and chemical signals generated by the cerebral cortex. So I sound pretty smart when I'm reading this.
That's impressive.
The brain's outer layer, which plays a crucial role in higher level functions like thinking, memory, and consciousness. Right? So the critical brain activity refers to that electrical and chemical signal. So again, if you go back to what I said before, it increases the fractal dimensions of cortical brain activity. So it's increasing the thinking and the memory and the consciousness, and it's increasing the fractal dimensions associated with higher levels of consciousness. They're proving this in science.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've done courses. I certainly have, of trying to meditate and get a higher level of consciousness. And heck, you even worded it perfectly. Like, you saw the Mind Valley course saying, hey, you could take these courses, you can skip the ayahuasca and you could do these courses. And your brain was like, no, the fastest way is ayahuasca. I'm doing ayahuasca. Right. And they continues to keep saying some information like, currently the most compelling theories of how psychedelics exert their effects is by increasing the complexity of brain activity and moving the system towards a critical point between order and disorder, creating more dynamic and complex patterns of neural activity. So I don't know what that says to you, but to me, that's talking about creating new neural pathways in your brain. And that's why medicine stays with you. That also says that psychedelics are potentially useful tools for discovering how specific changes in the brain are related to differences in perception and thought patterns. Is this all adding up for you? Because I'm surely, when I'm reading this in the airport, I'm like, this makes so much sense. Oh my gosh. Right.
You know what's crazy is that I start having these thoughts of, is this unlocking something that has been purposely taken away from us? I know that's, but this ties in with the chemicals that are in our food, right? Mm. Remember, it's so funny. Chuck came to my house with the Yucca app. You got to share that one for sure, where you just scan the barcode on your food and it tells you straight up if this is poison or not. Right? It doesn't say that, but the additives in there, I mean, my mind is blown. I can't even eat. I started binging my sugar-free food the day after he left because I needed to just get rid of it and be done with it. But look at it. This country, I mean, I hate that I feel this way. But man, like the foods that we're eating you can't even eat healthy in this country. It's full of chemicals. Like, are we purposely being made stupid so we can't have these levels of consciousness? Look at the hippie revolution in the 60s and 70s. The government came in and wiped that out. People are waking up and they put us back to sleep.
And I'm not disagreeing with that at all. I think there's probably a lot that's connected there. So I don't want to continue by making you feel like I'm dismissing that, because I'm certainly not disagreeing.
Well, you just did ayahuasca, so you're awake.
It says also that the subjective experience of the psychedelic state is associated with radical alterations to both the internal and external senses, including visual distortions, vivid, complex closed eye imagery, alterations to the sense of self, emotional extremes of euphoria and anxiety. I was experiencing that anxiety, and actually both. And in extreme cases, psychosis-like effects. The psychedelic experience can also have profound personal and even spiritual or religious characters, which has made them central to the religious practices of many cultures around the world.
Well, I told you I experienced that psychosis for a while after both of my journeys. And that's part of the reason that I'm terrified to do it again, because it reset me so hard that I couldn't tell the difference between reality and what I felt like the ayahuasca trip was still going for about a month. So, like that's a thing to prepare people for too. I mean, it affects everyone differently. Mm-hmm. I was not myself for a while. I mean, I knew I was awake, but it's kind of a dangerous thing to be wide awake in this world too, because if you have that different perspective and you can see through the bull crap, it makes it really hard. I call it the 3D world, right? We're in this 3-dimensional world, and you do ayahuasca and it takes you to this 5-dimension something else that's beyond your comprehension. And then when you try to come back and function in this world, it's a little difficult. There's a lot of hard truths that this is going to happen to you, Chuck. I know it. When you come back down on that pink cloud, which I've done twice, then you're looking around like you feel it. I bet you feel it in your head right here, don't you? Like from your eyebrows up, you could physically feel the pink cloud. I know I did. And then there's a moment, but you wake up one day and it's gone, and you're like, uh-oh. At least for me, that was like a uh-oh. Back to real life. The fantasy is over.
They were very clear on that the work isn't really done in the actual retreat. The work is done afterwards. And for me, I was already putting in the work on myself beforehand, and this is just making the work even more impactful. So I'm not saying I'm not going to have that, but I feel confident it will be less.
Yeah. You're prepared. You're prepared.
I'm speaking from a third party perspective because I have not done it, but now I've observed the stories of two people that have done it. I've seen some parallels in your positive experiences. I'm wondering if that's due to the thumbprint of the universe or the thumbprint of existence that is inside all of us, that is opened up and becomes visible to us when you're having this experience. There's definitely some parallels and similarities between your positive experiences. However, the negative experiences or some of the things that are not so enjoyable, they seem to differ. And I'm wondering, does that come from every person's individual trauma background coming up? Because not everyone has experienced the same trauma. However, the thumbprint of the universe or existence should be the same in everybody. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think there's a spark there that shows you there's definitely something more than this. I've heard so many people say, I was an atheist, I did ayahuasca, and now I believe in God. Like A plus B equals C. This is clear as day. I mean, you can't ignore it. It makes you fully aware that there is something bigger than you. And for me, I can't believe I was so oblivious to such a basic fact of life, right? That there has to be something that created this. Right? There has to be a God, a creator. It doesn't matter. To me, it doesn't matter what you call it. Just acknowledge the fact that there's something else out there that made us. And you should probably say thank you, right? You should probably acknowledge that entity being, for me, I saw it. I could close my eyes and still see what I saw. And it was so powerful. And at the same time, it's like, you don't even need plant medicine to recognize that. Look in the mirror and say, how do I exist? Right? I go outside in my backyard and I like the ground at night and I go out there barefoot, and I don't want to go too deep into the God talk, but I've become very religious and I talk to God now all the time and I get answers. And it's funny because I feel like the ayahuasca experience trained me for this relationship that I now have with God, right? The voice that I was hearing, and Chuck and I have been talking about this, like, is ayahuasca God? I don't know. Maybe it's God's voice in some other capacity, because now I ask those questions and I get the answers back immediately. I walked out in my backyard and it's like, I believe in God, right? But I like to play a game. The same way ayahuasca played these games with me, my relationship with God is comical because I love to make light of any situation. I walked out in my backyard and I said, God, just give me a sign. Everybody says that. Give me a sign. And I didn't get a sign, but before I could finish the thought, I got the answer. You exist. Right? I want a sign, God. He answered me. You exist, bro. Like, shut up. Don't ask me stupid questions. That's what proof that I exist.
Yeah, JC, in our previous episode where you shared your story, there was one really incredible quote that you shared that a lot of people have responded to. And that was that now in this scientific and technology age we're in now, we're all amazed at the capabilities of AI and we're patting ourselves on the back that humans have created this AI. However, one thing you pointed out, that compared to AI, our existence is 1 billion times more amazing than anything that we as humble humans are creating in AI. Why aren't we paying attention to that? And one sentence you said was, we are God's AI, or we are someone's AI. Someone created us 1 billion times more complex than anything we as humans are creating.
Yeah. Well, I think that, we've just spent so much time just existing and going through the motions, and just look at, let me make an existential statement to that. Like, I feel like we're so lost. Like, what are we doing? Like, we just chase after money, right? Like, that can't be what the plan was. And Chuck talks about his relationship with money. I've had it 10 times worse than that. And now I'm in this, like, I hate money now. Money was my God. Okay. Then I did ayahuasca and now I hate money. I hate that I have to go out and just spin my wheels when I want to just be, just like Chuck said, I want to save the world, right? Like, shouldn't that be everyone's goal? Like, what is our purpose on this planet? And I think we're so far gone from that we don't even pay attention to something as simple as, like, look at us. We are amazing. We are supercomputers. We're talking about quantum computers. We are the original. We're the OG supercomputer, right? And now we're just, but it's just like, I'm all over the place with what I'm studying, the simulation theory and the matrix. And the more I study it, the more real it seems. And I saw that matrix on ayahuasca. When I looked up at the sky, I saw just, it's funny, Chuck was talking about the million stars. I saw that. But when I looked up at the sky, I saw the matrix, and every single star was in its perfect little place. And it was showing me everything is exactly where it's supposed to be. It couldn't not be, right? There's trillions of universes and they don't collide with each other. I mean, come on. The Earth rotates perfectly. I mean, it's just, how could there not be a creator God?
I saw a university professor do an opening statement at the beginning of the semester in quantum mechanics. And he said to his class of 50 people, he said, right now, there's one person in this classroom that does not understand quantum mechanics or quantum physics. That's me. By the end of this semester, there will be 51 people that don't understand it.
Nice. Yeah, the quantum mechanics and the Google computer chip, it's just, I think it's going to prove God eventually, right? Or maybe, but that might be when God presses the reset button. It's like, nope, you're not supposed to figure that out. Start over.
Chuck, yesterday we had a call. We were discussing something regarding work. And my lovely partner, Olivia, she just jumped on the call just momentarily and she said hello to you and she looked at you and she said, Chuck, you look better. And like that statement has a lot of different levels, because does that mean you look more handsome, you look more healthy, you look more energized or whatever? But later on last night, she explained to me that it's hard to explain, but he just looks better. And I'm going to put up on the screen now a screenshot of Chuck from 2 weeks ago, our previous episode, and look at him now. What do you see? Is there something different about Chuck that may or may not be able to be explained, but there's a feeling or an energy that's coming from him now, having experienced this journey? And JC, since I met you a few weeks ago, like, you have had this incredible aura and energy and positivity and radiance about you, which is infectious. I imagine that your day must just be full of joy and people laughing and just wonderful experiences. Everywhere you go, there's an energy that embodies you.
Well, it's a, power is hard to deal with when it comes to stuff like that. Power is not the word I want to say, but it's like God is literally sending people to me to heal on a daily basis, all day long. I keep telling people, you will never believe what happened to me today. I never believe what happened, because I'm awake to it now, and my energy is pulling people to me to heal them in the craziest ways. I mean, it's unfathomable, because a couple of years ago, I would only help somebody for one reason. I was going to make money from it. Right. It's funny because I'm just so open with my transition now that I tell my clients, I say, I just want you to know that a couple of years ago when I met you, the only thing I cared about was selling you a house. Right. Like that was it. I would legitimately be counting the commission based on their pre-approval. Oh, I'm going to make $15,000. I'll help you more because I'll make more helping you. And I'm not even going to take the call from this other person. Now I'm more apt to help a homeless guy. That's somebody that really, really needs it.
Wow. So for people down in Florida looking at real estate, this in front of you is the only honest real estate agent you'll find in Florida. So give him a call.
Yeah. Beware, I'm going to tell you like it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So if it's a lemon, you'll tell him it's a lemon.
Yeah, I'll tell him not to buy it.
Yeah.
If it's a lemon.
So the medicine opens up the door, but it's up to me to really decide what to do next. And that's the work that we were talking about, putting in and consistently working through the messages that were received. So there's the storyteller and the story is being told to. And if you believe that you are your thoughts, you'll always be a prisoner to them. So the healing I got from this is that I am in control of all of that. I am not my thoughts, right? And then I can control those thoughts to be as positive and as joyful as I want them to be. I am now aligned with the beauty of everything, and I am emanating it. I have the keys. Plan with fall, or plans will fall, and that's to build a new castle. You're more than enough. heal the world. That's my favorite one. I'm on the right path right now. Continue this journey with deep knowing and belief. I am the medicine. I am healed. Surrender all control. All of life is beautiful, even the parts that my current self think that they aren't. And don't let the world distract me. Let go, release all judgment, and suffering comes when we're attached to our ego.
Thanks very much, guys. Looking forward to our next episode where we unpack more stories about the journeys of the Masters of Wellness. And thank you, everybody, for your support. Love you all.
Love you.
Love you.